So as I have a purple Bible. I love it. I love purple. So I love my Bible. Anyway, as I was reading, I got fascinated by the story of Saul after watching the House of David. And so it led me to the book of Samuel. Um, and when you're reading about about Saul, you eventually have to read about Samuel. But now, I got caught up in the in First Samuel 3:18. Before we get there, we know about the story of Samuel, his mom Hannah, and all that. I'm trusting that you know that story, and we also know the story of God calling him, and 3 times he ran to Eli. Eli is a person that Samuel was under, and Samuel thinking that Eli was calling him, and so he went 3 times until eventually Eli realized that God was trying to speak to Samuel, and now instructed him to answer this, that when you hear that voice say, here I am, um, sorry, when you hear that voice say, speak, for your servant is listening. And so now God speaks to Samuel, and tells him in the vision. Let's read in First Samuel 3:14. There's just a lot of background story before we get there. It's about the verdict that God spoke to the house of Eli. So therefore I saw to the house of Eli, the guilt of Eli's house will never be atoned for by sacrifice or offering, because in those days that is how people would atone for their sins. And we know, just before we get to this bit, about Eli's sons are described as being wicked, and we even have a bit where Eli is trying to just talk to them and warn them and tell them to change their ways, but we are told they didn't listen to their father. And now there's this prophecy against the house of Eli, where they are told that they will die in their prime and all that. And we are told actually that the 2 sons, in First Samuel 2, this is 34. And what happens to your sons, Hophni and Phineas, will be assigned to you. They will both die on the same day. So this is already, there's this great and heavy prophecy against Eli's sons. After everything that they had been doing, and God was displeased with them, and had actually said that they would die on the same day, and there would be no, there wouldn't be a priest coming from that generation and all that. And so, after God speaks to Samuel, we see Samuel struggled to tell Eli what God has said to him. And so, let's read from 15. Samuel lay down until morning and then opened the doors of the house of the Lord. He was afraid to tell Eli the vision. But Eli called him and said, Samuel, my son. Samuel answered, here I am. What was it he said to you? Eli asked. Do not hide it from me. May God deal with you, be it ever so severely, if you hide from me anything he told you. First of all, Samuel has grown under Eli's instructions, and fears God and all that. And so when he's told that may God deal with you severely if you hide anything from me, of course he was going to say what happened in the vision. And so in verse 18, this is the one that caught my attention. So Samuel told him everything, hiding nothing from him. The response from Eli. Then Eli said, he is the Lord. Let him do what is good in his eyes. And I remember when I first read this, I was just caught, as a parent, if you would get to this point, of course, it's that bit, maybe your kids have been very naughty and you're tired of talking to them and trying to correct them and all that. But then again, there's also that part, you don't want to give up on them. You want to pray, you want to just intercede and pray that God changes this verdict and all that. And so I looked at it at from that angle, that maybe, as a parent, you're tired and you're like, okay, God is going to deal with you. I am done with you. But that's just likely. The bit that got me is imagining the journey that Eli had walked with God to just get to this point. That there is this prophecy against your house, and it's heavy. It's not good news at all. And you just get to a point of saying, first of all, that he is Lord. We don't see Eli minimizing the position of God at all. He's Lord. He's still God. He's still in charge. He's still the creator. He's still God. Let him do what is good in his eyes. I don't know if you also feel, that point of, okay, I'm just tired. I'm a bit done with this. But there's also the place of trusting the heart and the hand of God, and just saying, let him do what is good in his eyes. That I am not going to try to counter this verdict or this word from God. That I'm going to trust that this is what he has decided, and it's not that let him do maybe what he wants and all that. It is, let him do what is good in his eyes. And just trying to put this in our current situations, and struggling with loss or joblessness, or even poverty. Like, there's so many things that we deal with, sickness, the sickness of a loved one and all that. Just being able to get to the point of saying, let him do what is good in his eyes. It's not a good report. You have gone to the doctor. It's a bad report, and you're discouraged and you don't know where to start and all that. But then you still look to God and say, let him do what is good in his eyes. For me, it speaks to a journey of faith that Eli had really walked with God, and that a journey we can only just hope and desire to just get to this point of trusting God and saying, let him do what is good in his eyes, even when the report is not good, even when the message is not good, even the prophecy and the vision is not good, that you're still saying, let him do what is good in his eyes. And even before you get there, that you still acknowledge God, that you still say, He is the Lord. When we go through tough situations and we are asking God, where are you in this? Are you even present? Do you even remember I exist and all that? And sometimes those things that happen to us that really even challenge our faith, and we almost just, and sometimes we even do it turn away from God, that we would go through something that is so hard and heavy and still acknowledge the presence of God in that, the place of God in that, and say that He is Lord. And I just pray that God would help us, that He would help me to just to be able to strongly and faithfully and sincerely just trust His heart and His hand this much, that I would look at any situation, a situation, and say that He is the Lord, and that let Him do what is good in His eyes, that I'm trusting Him, that I'm believing that all things are really working out for my good and for His glory. This was just caught my attention. Just go read this story. First Samuel 3, all the way up to 21. This was just read the background story of what was happening. And may God help us that we'll be able to just look at things and say, He's the Lord. Let Him do what is good in His eyes. God bless you.